question for Dr. Haas. Doctor, in preparing for this conference, I thought it would be interesting. I saw something in the Washington Post about Father Francis X. Murphy, the Redemptorist, more popularly known as Xavier Rind. And I think his commentaries on the council seem to be more famous than the documents of the council themselves. But anyway, he responded to me, and he made an interesting response, and I'd like to know how you would answer him. He said that unhappily he couldn't share the joy of this day, so he couldn't be with us. But he did say that the present Holy Father's constant condemnation of birth control is in conflict with Humanae Vitae's justification of NFP methods of birth control, and he refers to paragraphs 16 and 17. Why do you think he holds that position, and how would we answer that kind of objection ourselves?
I don't even know what it means. I mean, I've always said John Paul II is kind of out Humanae Vitae to Humanae Vitae, because I mean he's taught it with such consistency and clarity. But he took the name of John Paul so that he could actually carry on, the project of John the 23rd and Paul VI, and has given himself over completely to their teachings in many ways. Familiaris Consortio, and particularly the Holy Father's Wednesday audiences, his catechesis on human sexuality, which are available for the Paul, have been a beautiful deepening of the teaching of Humanae Vitae. Did he specify how the Pope could conceivably be contradicting?
That's his objection. There's more to the letter, and I can show you that in a moment. But I guess I'm trying to make a point, too. It seems like there's almost a wall, and that there's no discussion. And that a man like this, who's considered a fountainhead of wisdom on this issue, is speaking in such a way. And so I want to know if you were to face him, if he were to bring up that objection.
Well, I'd have to know more of his argumentation in making that kind of claim. It's just incomprehensible to me. But our Lord did talk about those who have eyes but do not see, and ears but do not hear. And so we have to pray to him.
Thank you, Doctor.
Kevin, I'm not sure that this is the answer, but I think this might be part of the problem. And it's reflective of the situation that we have in our diocese. When the dissenting priests in our diocese justified what it was that they were doing, they consistently appealed to bishops around the church and other theologians who were making statements very similar to their own and who were not disciplined. And so their justification was, well, Paul VI is not doing anything to them. Why are you, Cardinal Boyle, coming down on us? And see, this is the problem. Our bishop here interpreted the document in such a way as it being authoritative. And he conducted the affairs of this diocese as if they were authoritative. But there were many places in the church where that was not happening. And so people like Father Murphy will come along today, 25 years later, and they'll say, Paul VI issued Humanae Vitae, but he didn't make it definitive for everyone because everyone was dissenting and they didn't do anything about it. And so when he says John Paul II has this obsession about Humanae Vitae, he's saying that Paul VI let everyone off the hook. What's this man's problem? And that's what I see as being the question that this man is raising about John Paul II's teaching on Humanae Vitae. There's a difference in the way that the two popes have approached it's the way that they chose to uphold that teaching.
Of course, the interesting thing is that John Paul II hasn't actually disciplined anyone either. We have to make the distinction between the Church's authority in terms of its teaching in the area of faith and morals and the way it exercises its authority administratively. And the Church teaches infallibly in the area of faith and morals, but that is not to say that the Church authorities will not make mistakes when it comes to matters of administration, right, on occasion. And a question was put to me earlier during the break about whether or not these priests who had been disciplined by having their faculties removed, because some were saying they were really disciplined, but anyway, by having their faculties removed, how were they then able to exercise their ministry again later? And I'll let Father answer that, because it might be in some people's minds.
Well, as the solution to the conflict, and excuse me. if any of you have seen the second volume of the Vatican II documents, the case is in here under the Washington case. The document is there that was issued in 1971 that was basically the way that this was solved. And the way it was solved was that those that were dissenting were required to assent that Humanae Vitae was in fact definitive, and that the bishop of the diocese was the principal teacher, and that they should teach according to his teaching. They were never required to retract their statement of conscience, as they called it. However, their faculties were given back to them by the bishop at the behest of the Holy Father, simply by assenting that Humanae Vitae was definitive. That is why you can see how, just as I'm not giving you a lot of detail, but that's not much of an answer. And it wasn't much of an answer in 1971, and everyone knew it. And that's the problem with it still today.